On that note, Thanasi, I think it is time for us to give our predictions for what we think is going to happen this weekend at AEW Dynasty. We've got a 9 match card with 1 match on the pre-show. I've elected to not include the pre-show match in our predictions. So we'll just go straight into it. And the first contest we're going to be discussing is Adam Copeland, Eddie Kingston, and Mark Briscoe versus the House of Black. Where do you see this one going?
So, where I'm thinking is that the House of Black can really take a W here to strengthen the feud against Adam Copeland. I think the baby faces are they're all quite in good form because Briscoe um, and Kingston, they had, a nice match for the ROH World title. I mean, you've got two champions on one side of the equation. So that's actually what's drawing me to that side. But I think even though the right call would probably be to give it to the House of Black, I'm going to opt for the baby faces on this occasion, just predicting AEW's booking style to, give a win to Adam Copeland and to the ROH World Champion as well.
I'm gonna go with the heels here. I just, you know, I have a vibe, and I honestly think they could probably do with it more, given the circumstance, because Adam Copeland's a champion, Mark Briscoe's a champion, Eddie Kingston until very recently was a Triple Crown champion. The House of Black haven't really had any honors that they can boast in a little while, so I think they could actually do with the win here. And I think giving them the win here could even give a bit of ammunition to Malachi Black challenging for the TNT Championship as well. Moving on, we've got Hook versus Chris Jericho for the FTW Championship in an FTW rules match. This one is actually a little hard for me to predict because I feel like on paper there's an obvious winner here, but Jericho is not usually one to do bit feuds. Sometimes he likes to keep things going, and it would be a shock if he did get the victory over the champion here. That being said, I still am putting my money on Hook to win this match.
Yeah, likewise, I will be doing the same because I can't see Jericho as the FTW champion. Like it would be a vanity project for him, and this is it's Hook's championship, so I can't see it going any other way. And it would give a good rub to Hook getting a victory over Chris Jericho.
The next match we've got to discuss is Roderick Strong versus Kyle O'Reilly for the AEW International Championship. And I think this match is one that, if they do it right, could be very emotionally charged. Uh, but that being said, we're not here to predict if we think it's going to be emotionally charged. We're here to predict who we think is going to win. So, Thanasi, who have you got going over in this one?
I I would like to see Kyle O'Reilly with gold at some point. I don't think that right now is the opportune moment to do that. I think we have a little bit more storyline to squeeze out. I do recall that I thought that Adam Cole was trying to fulfill a similar prophecy with the Undisputed Kingdom that he had with the Undisputed Era, but that has not yet been fulfilled. And I don't know if they're going to give up on that just yet. And that's for that reason that I'm going to say sticking with Roddy Strong for now until we let events unfold and see exactly where it is where we're heading with Undisputed Kingdom.
I'm with you. I think Strong probably successfully retains here, maybe even with some interference just to shore it up a bit. But yeah, I think Strong definitely wins this one. The next match we've got to discuss is Julia Hart versus Willow Nightingale in a house rules match for the AEW TBS Championship. There's a lot going on with this title right now because Willow Nightingale is definitely the challenger here, and whoever wins this match is supposedly going to be set to face Mercedes Moné at Double or Nothing. So there's a little bit to try and foresee in this case. With that being said, where does this one go for you?
I remember when Julia Hart was on an unbeaten streak and had a really good string of victories put together. And then she took on the championship. And she's actually been quite a good ambassador for their women's division, pulling out some nice little matches, a really good television champion. appearing quite regularly on TV, having good defenses. I think Willow can squeeze a lot out of her. I think they can actually have a nice little TBS championship match. But my view is that with both Willow having been attacked backstage on Dynamite and with Mercedes Moné having been jumped in the dark, that where we're really heading properly is better, or we're better off heading towards is a Julia Hart versus Mercedes Moné confrontation. So I think Julia Hart retaining and then having some kind of an interesting blow off, maybe it will more reveals as to who it was that attacked Mercedes Moné in the dark later on down the track.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, and it's also to me that's I know that there are people that keenly follow all wrestling, so they would have known about they know about the Nightingale Mercedes Moné previous interaction in the ring in their match. But for me, I feel like the Hart Mercedes Moné thing is the thing that's most engaging right this very moment. And for that to take place, you feel that Julia Hart probably has to retain here. So that's definitely where my prediction's going as well. The next match we have to discuss is Kazuchika Okada versus Puck for the AEW Continental Championship. For me, this is actually a very simple prediction. Okada very recently acquired this championship. He's a very big name in wrestling and in AEW, and I think you got to make him look strong. So you got to give him the win here.
Okada has to look really, really strong, continuing on with his reign. I mean, they can have a good contest, I think,
Of course.
but the ultimate result does need to be Okada, doesn't it? Like there's just no other really way to go about it, and there's not much more reasoning you can do aside from maybe it's going to be a dirty finish potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, the next match is potentially the hardest to predict, and that is the Young Bucks versus FTR in the tournament final ladder match for the vacant AEW World Tag Team Championships. Now, this one, if you look at the rivalries thus far, it's 2-1 in favor of FTR. And they're very evenly balanced, so you have to think that Young Bucks will be strong enough to make it 2-2 again. And building on that, we are seemingly teasing the potential return of Jack Perry, perhaps in favor of the Young Bucks, helping them get the win here. But is that swaying you towards them, or do you think there's something on the FTR side that can maybe pull it their way?
I will actually add something else in favor of the Young Bucks, and that's that at the moment, their gimmick, which is not their traditional fun streamers gimmick, right? They've changed it up. I think having the focus on them, being champions is a focus as well, right? But having the focus on them, I think, is quite captivating at the moment because we're trying to figure out where we're going with this EVP storyline. And yes, it would be a shame for FTR because they're also on a bit of I'd say that they're stagnating a little bit for me. Um, Trying to figure out, they're spending a lot of time on Collision, which has lower ratings. I would rather see them a bit more on Dynamite on the primary show, but without digressing too much, I just think that there's more meat to the story of the Young Bucks than there is meat to the story of FTR. So I'm going to go with the Young Bucks actually.
Against my better judgment, I'm going with FTR, and I'm not gonna lie, it's a bit of a prediction in support of the team that I like better. But if the way things have panned out, I'd be lying if I said FTR is the way to go right now because it feels like there is more meat to the story of what's going on for the Young Bucks. But I just in my heart, I just need to back my boys, the FTR. So moving on to the next match, we have Timeless Tony Storm versus Thunder Rosa for the AEW Women's World Championship. This is one of the more high-profile matches I think the women's division can actually pull off, really. And I think, is this Thunder Rosa's first actual title match for the Women's World Championship since she's returned?
I think it probably is. And what this specific setup is reminding me of a little bit is, and this is under the assumption that AJ Styles will defeat LA Knight on SmackDown, and that's that putting LA Knight, putting AJ Styles as the challenger to Cody gives him the bump.
Mm.
And I think Thunder Rosa laying down for Tony Storm gives Tony Storm the bump. And I'm quite keen to see that. Like, it's not time to take the belt off Tony Storm yet. And until we get there, we just got to keep making her look strong, giving her enough screen time to show off the timeless thing. So my prediction is definitely going to be Tony Storm on this one. And I think they've got a bit of personal beef as well. So that aggression may find its way onto the screen in the ring come Dynasty.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only reason you'd want to give it to Rosa right now is if someone like Britt Baker was ready to come back to the ring and you can just go you can go all in on that rivalry again. But I think Storm's probably the right choice here, and she's also the person I'm predicting for this match. We then get to the penultimate match of this card, and arguably the most anticipated match, and that is Will Ospreay versus Bryan Danielson. This, I think, we know is going to be a phenomenal match between the two competitors. Who actually wins this match? Because there is one argument that it should be Ospreay, but it's also dependent on what they want to do with the feud as well. Because if
Look,
it's just a one-off, then give it to Ospreay. But if they want to do something extended a bit longer, it could be that they give Danielson the win here.
accepting uh, accepting some kind of a dirty finish or shenanigans, Osprey has to be the favorite going into this. He just has to be because he he hasn't had all that long as a full-time permanent member of the AEW roster. And I think that getting the victory over Danielson just raises his stature to kind of like that insurmountable sort of level where he can actually begin to, start to say, hey, Swerve, I'm coming for you. Or start to say, hey, Adam Copeland, I'm coming for you. Get that gold around his waist. With Danielson winning, I understand the point that you're making about maybe it could extend the feud, but AEW generally does not like to do too many repeat matches. So having that repeat match, as early as say like Double or Nothing or something like that, I don't really think it's in the cards at the moment. So I'm gonna go quite confidently with Will Ospreay.
I'm going to go with Bryan Danielson. And I think that he's a phenomenal wrestler. Losing to him doesn't actually hurt as much as one might think. And I think as well, like we've seen with AEW, one is rivalries can continue, but months separated. So it might not even be that these two face again at the next immediate pay-per-view. It could be that it could be further down the line, and that's when they revisit it. And I think it just depends on when they want to give Ospreay the world title. Because if they don't want to give it to him too soon, then you can still afford to just have him put on these great stories and matches with these other guys in the periphery of the actual world title scene. So I'm going to go with Danielson here. And that now leads us to the main event, and that is Samoa Joe versus Swerve Strickland for the AEW World Championship. And this is going to be a hard one to predict for me. I think I know where you're leaning, so I'll just throw it to you first.
Well, I'll first put it logically, right? And then I'll get to the qualitative side. But logically, I'm predicting not many what do you call them? Not many title changes and quite a few heel victories. And given that these guys I think Swerve is quite truly the babyface here. So I think having that overlap now of a babyface winning and a title change, I think is quite in the cards for this particular card. That said, I'm super, super keen for this to be the focus because at the last pay-per-view, I thought Swerve was going to win, but Sting had the focus, right? So they didn't have the title change because it would have taken away. Right call in hindsight. Now there is nothing in his way, nothing to prevent him from joining the likes of Ron Simmons, the likes of Bobby Lashley, Booker T, as big Kofi Kingston, Big E, as massive world champions, black African American world champions. Super keen to see this happen. And I really think it's time for him to be coronated. So Swerve Strickland for AEW World Champion.
I 100% agree. I think it's time. And the it just feels perfectly set up for him, like the way you're saying, is that even last month when we thought maybe that was the time to do it, you were right. Like in hindsight, the focus was too much on other people. And now it's like it's all on him. And we've got the pay-per-view name of Dynasty. It almost feels like it's perfectly set up for someone else to set up their own dynasty in the company. So yeah, Swerve Strickland, definitely I'm supporting him in this prediction. I wouldn't be devastated if Joe retained because I am quite enjoying him as the world champion, but it does feel a bit like he won it from MJF to offload it to another big up and coming star, and feels like Swerve Strickland is that right star to actually take the reins from him.
If anything, I would actually say that I originally thought Joe was set up to be a transitional champion. He's actually been more than that. And I'm actually really happy with that because he deserves to be more than a transitional champion. He's had a really good, solid reign, proved himself to be, like a deserving sort of natural leader. Like not everyone who is a natural born leader actually ends up being the most popular person. But I do see those natural leadership qualities in Joe for the locker room and to lead as world champion. So it's been a good run, and let's bring it to a glorious end. Let's end it with a bang, not with a whimper.
Well, those are our predictions for AEW Dynasty. Please feel free to let us know in the comments below if you think we completely stuffed it up or if we're onto something. And likewise, tell us what you think's going to happen at this week's event.